We're coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios. This is Prime News on SABC 3. Here are the stories making headlines. Several people have been reportedly killed on the R61 road in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape following an alleged police shootout.
1998 white paper was fantastic. It's good to review it.
Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister has convened a dialogue to review the 1998 white paper on local government and its relevance. And in soccer news, Orlando Pirates have appointed Moroccan Abdesalam Ouaddou as their new coach. Good evening and welcome to Prime News on 3. A pleasure it is to be in your company this evening as we bring you the latest happening in and around your world. I am Paulette. Now, let's start first with this. The R61 road in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape has been closed off to traffic as it is an active crime scene following an alleged police shootout, which is believed to have led to the deaths of 6 people. However, no injuries have been reported on the side of the police. The incident happened at Rosé and police are yet to elaborate on the motive. Now on to this. The future of local government in South Africa is at a crossroad. Many municipalities are dysfunctional, unsustainable and bankrupt due to bad governance and a poor revenue collection base. Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velinkosini Hlabisa has convened a dialogue to review the 1998 white paper on local government and its relevance.
The dialogue to review the white paper in local government looked extensively at the funding model of municipalities. Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister Velinkosini Hlabisa called on municipalities to be run like businesses. The remuneration of councillors also features prominently in some of the proposals to review municipalities, as councillors give less attention to their elected roles due to bad remuneration.
There is a heavy reliance on consultants when it comes to the compilation of the annual financial statements, yet many municipalities end up with bad results on audit outcome to an extent of disclaimers and adverse outcomes. A number of municipalities constantly fail to spend MIC and other grants allocation.
The tender system and council list processes have been slammed during the discussions. Political parties have until next week Monday to make substantive submissions on the future of local government. Auditor General Takane Malulega focused on the managerial aspect of municipalities, the role of mayors in the finance aspect of municipalities, and understanding the balance sheet.
The 1998 white paper was fantastic. It's good to review it, but that must be followed with a very bold and courageous assessment and recommitment to implementing it.
The white paper review also questions if South Africa still needs over the 257 municipalities, some of which are dysfunctional and financially not viable. Samkela Masago, SABC News, Johannesburg.
KwaZulu-Natal Premier Thamsanqa Ntuli says the provincial government of unity is stable despite some major challenges. Ntuli says the biggest challenge facing the province is budget cuts, which have negatively affected the delivery of services in some key departments.
KwaZulu-Natal Premier Thamsanqa Ntuli says the government of provincial unity, which he leads, is on track. That's despite a report by Stats SA stating the province recorded an unemployment rate of 32.1% in the fourth quarter of last year, which is above the national average. The province is also struggling to finance the budget gap of over 60 billion rand. The Provincial Department of Education recently had to postpone the writing of examinations due to its failure to pay an amount of about 900 million rand for norms and standards. The Health Department has also had its fair share of financial challenges, which affected the availability of critical medicine. The Premier has refuted claims that the provincial government government is on the verge of financial collapse.
We are saving this government from collapsing in terms of the finances. The background being known because we were upfront to mention that we inherited a government with a gap of more than 60 billion rand because of the previous year's budget cuts. You just imagine then how then do we operate.
On the positive note, Ntuli applauded the work done by police led by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in the fight against crime. Simpiwe Makanya, SABC News, Durban.
Minister of Employment and Labour Nomakhosazana Math has visited one of the centres where flood victims are placed in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. Math's visit was to ensure that the unemployed are registered on the employment system of South Africa.
We are here not just to look at the immediate need of comfort, as we have mentioned before, but even moving forward, those who might have even lost their documents, because we might get that there are people who lost their loved ones who are having a program of trying to find job, or also to claim for those who have lost their job even before the disaster occurred. So those documents, for sure, if then the houses and the homes were submerged underwater, they don't have those documents. So we are, as part of the program that we are offering today.
Still on that story, the death toll of the flood victims in the Eastern Cape has risen to 95. This follows the discovery of 2 bodies of teenage males yesterday afternoon. The provincial government says only 86 bodies have been identified. Welcome back. Let's continue with this. Action SA leader Herman Mashaba says government failures are to blame for the lack of clean water and electricity in Alexandra in Gauteng. The party launched an intensive nationwide campaign today focused on fixing local government in Alexandra, a community the party believes has been neglected.
The smell of raw sewage hangs heavy in the air in Alexandra. Local government failures hitting communities hard. Residents face daily hardships as essential services like water, electricity and sanitation remain unavailable. Action SA warns that without proper funding, municipalities won't be able to provide basic service effectively.
This is a very sphere of government closest to the people, and yet it is where mismanagement, incompetence, corruption are mostly acute and felt by the communities.
Residents in Alex shared their frustrations about their living conditions.
We want toilets, water and electricity. That's all we ask from our government, and it's not safe for our children to live here.
Mashaba says his party is committed to a local government that works for all communities. Lerato Makula, SABC News in Johannesburg.
Around 3,000 current beef cattle infected with the foot and mouth disease have been vaccinated at the Heidelberg feedlot in Gauteng today. The process began over the weekend where 27,000 cattle were vaccinated at this facility.
Minister of Agriculture John Steenhuisen says 42 million rand has been put aside for vaccinations to control the foot and mouth disease. The latest bout of infections has resulted in an increase in the price of beef. 900,000 vials of vaccines were procured from Botswana, with more to come. They have been sent to state vets in KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, the Northwest and Mpumalanga provinces.
We'll be procuring more as we embark upon a vaccination program to get it under control, and then obviously we'll then move towards putting in place other initiatives as well to try and curb the spread.
Gauteng Agriculture and Rural Development MEC Vuyiswa Ramogopa says a lot more effort is needed to control the interprovincial movement of animals to curb the spread of the infection.
And recognize that when the international community and our export countries see us, they see us as one country. They don't differentiate between Gauteng and Mpumalanga and Free State. So it's important to take an interprovincial response, and I'm really glad that we are able to play our role as Gauteng.
Despite this intervention, beef prices will remain elevated. Director of Animal Health, Dr. Mpomaja, says the slaughtering is expected to start again in about 4 to 6 weeks from the time of vaccination. Steenhuisen says South Africa is in the process of producing its own vaccine, which the Agricultural Research Council is in the final stages of testing. Diabo Sito, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Chairperson of Parliament's Higher Education and Training Portfolio Committee, Tebogo Letsie, says Parliament will consult its legal advisors should Minister Nobuhle be found to have misled the committee. He says while there's no conclusive outcome on whether she lied about the SETA board chairperson selection panel, the committee will not take the matter lightly.
Committee Chair Tebogo Letsie says the committee won't jump any processes, but MPs in the committee want finality.
The minister will be invited and all panelists to appear before the portfolio committee and account on the appointment process of the SETA Accounting Authority chairpersons.
Letsie has written to the panelists and the deadline for their written responses is Wednesday, the 25th of June. Chair of the Select Committee on Sciences and Creative Industries, Maki Feni, also weighed in on SETAs.
The Select Committee is clear to say those SETAs must serve the interest and objective of what they have, created for.
The committee is closely monitoring the implementation of the Bella Act. Chair of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development, Bridget Masango, expressed her committee's concerns about the conditions imposed by National Treasury on the 2025-26 social grants.
The Portfolio Committee on Social Development is deeply concerned about these conditions, not because we oppose fraud prevention, but because the current implementation is causing untold delays, confusion, and deep distress among beneficiaries.
She says the committee is being inundated with calls and messages from individuals and organizations asking MPs for assistance. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
Thank you for staying with us. Now on to this. The local JSE traded mostly in the red today, while the local currency lost slight ground against major currencies. Given the tension in the Middle East, the Brent crude oil prices jumped to a 5-month high during Asian trading earlier in the day, going through $81 a barrel. By the time the local JSE market opened at 9 a.m., Brent crude oil prices had retreated back to below $78 a barrel.
Market sentiment has been characterized as weaker on the back of tensions taking place in the Middle East. And this came through in market activity, with Asian markets trading mixed, the local JSE trading largely in negative territory today, and US markets opening more or less unchanged on last Friday's close. The local currency also felt some downward pressure.
Currency, we're out at 18.14 to the dollar. We've seen a little bit of a pickup in the US dollar index, but we are losing a ground against the euro and the pound as well. And that's also to be expected. When you see heightened geopolitical risk, of course, you see a flight to safety, and you see typically money pulling out of emerging markets like South Africa. So that move also does make sense, although it is fairly subdued. We've seen, what call it 10 cents on the local currency, which is really not big given the historical moves that we see in the rand.
Boyson suggests that if the Strait of Hormuz is closed, that could result in the oil price immediately hitting as much as $100 a barrel, just for starters. So far, the market has not priced in this prospect, but should it suddenly happen in the coming days, this will lead to global inflationary pressures. And locally, this would mean higher fuel prices, which would put pressure on food prices and all other products, kissing any further prospect of a rate cut goodbye. Nampumelelo Ziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.
International Relations and Cooperation Minister Ronald Lamola says a state burial in Zambia represents the most fitting tribute to honor former President Edgar Lungu's legacy and service to the Zambian nation. Lamola met with Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema in Lusaka. It comes as the Lungu family has indicated that it wants to bury the former Zambian leader in South Africa.
The family of the late former Zambian President Edgar Lungu wants the sick Zambian leader to be buried in South Africa. Minister Lamola has gone to Lusaka as the presidential special envoy as the feud continues. Pretoria says this is a sensitive matter.
In reaffirming the South African government's position, Minister Lamola emphasized that a state burial in Zambia represents the most fitting tribute to honor former President Lungu's distinguished legacy and service to the Zambian nation. Concurrently, Minister Lamola acknowledged that the legal obligation to respect the expressed wishes of the late former president's family are also of primacy.
Anybody can wish that ECO is buried in Zambia, but it's the family ultimately that has all the rights. And every effort to obviously get President HH and the family to a common agreement has fallen off. And from the party's perspective, we have all traveled now in South Africa, and indeed we'll bury our leader next few days. Just a point to mention that it's not unusual for sort of political exile people to be buried in a country where they die. It happened in Zambia when a lot of ANC, under the apartheid era, when they were in Zambia, a number of them are buried in our graves in Lusaka.
Meanwhile, some of the leaders who have been buried outside of their countries include former Congolese strongman Mobutu Sese Seko, who was laid to rest in Morocco decades ago. Kylie Kumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Orlando Pirates, who finished second in the Betway Premiership and reached the semi-finals of the CAF Champions League, have finally appointed a new coach. Moroccan Abdesalam Ouaddo, who coached Marmo Gallants last season, will take over from Jose, who had a very successful stint with the Bucks. The appointment of the 46-year-old former Moroccan professional footballer may come as a surprise, but Ouaddo is a UEFA Pro license holder, and during his brief tenure at Gallants, he coached the team to 5 wins, 4 draws, and just 3 defeats in 12 matches. One of those victories was a 2-0 win against the Bucks at the Free State Stadium in March. Banyana coach Desiree Ellis is more than confident that her team will be able to successfully defend their Women's Africa Cup of Nations title in Morocco. Ellis announced her squad of players for the tournament to be played from the 5th to the 26th of July.
Banyana coach Desiree Ellis spent a long time in camp with her players ahead of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations tournament. Ellis initially named a squad of 46 players that she trimmed down to 28 players. Only 14 of the players in the final team were in the AFCON winning squad 3 years ago. South Africa are in Group C alongside Ghana, Mali and Tanzania. But Ellis realizes that it will not be easy to defend their title.
Selections are never easy because players keep stepping up and makes your job very difficult. But I've got a good group of technical staff with me, having a look at everything, and finally we came up with a squad that we think will do the job for us, a good mix of youth and experience.
Ellis is happy to have the experienced Refilo Jani back in the team after a long injury layoff.
We've got quite a number of new players, some young, some are returning, so we have to get them ready for the tournament. So it's a work in progress, but by the time the tournament starts, we'll be ready.
According to the South African Football Association, the mandate for Ellis and her players is clear and simple, as they are expected to defend their AFCON title.
It's a common cause that we are defending champions and we want to retain our title. I think that's the sole mandate.
Ellis says they are ready for the tournament after they started their preparations more than a year ago. Sfiso Ramara, SABC News, Johannesburg.
With that, it's now time to check out the latest weather forecast. Stay tuned.
Thank you very much and a very warm welcome to the weather desk. It was a fine day in most areas of South Africa today, especially over the central interior, but a cold front did pass along the southwest coast of the country with a slight chance of rainfall still expected over Cape Town and surrounding areas. Otherwise, clear conditions will persist for the rest of the night over the central interior, but the morning will start off with some fog patches over the south and eastern escarpment of the country and the southern interior in the Northern Cape and the Western Cape. Just some partly cloudy skies expected throughout the Western Cape, spreading to the western interior of the Eastern Cape and along the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal. Just some partly cloudy skies with no rainfall expected in the forecast, but there is a level 2 warning of very damaging waves along the coastal areas of the Eastern Cape and very strong southwesterlies tonight, reaching 60 kilometers per hour for some areas, making it very difficult navigating offshore the coastal areas of the Eastern Cape. And these conditions are still expected to persist for most of tomorrow in the south coast of South Africa. And temperatures will go below freezing over the Central Free State and some areas in the Northern Cape. In Sutherland, we're expecting a minimum of -4, a minimum of 0 for Kimberley, -1 in Bloemfontein, and -2 over Bethlehem. Johannesburg is dropping to a minimum of 5 degrees overnight, 9 in Musina, 18 degrees over the city of eThekwini, and 12 over Richards Bay, and rising to a pleasant 21 over Johannesburg, and similar conditions over Nquba in the Eastern Cape, 20 degrees for East London and George in the south coast of the Western Cape. We're expecting an average of 23 degrees. Very mild temperatures for Cape Town and Sutherland as a result of the passing cold front, but pleasant temperatures can be expected in Uppington, reaching a maximum of 25 degrees. And that is all from the weather desk.
That concludes our time together this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, it's good night and God bless.